Close your eyes, just for a moment. Before this room, before this screen, before these words, what was there? When you opened your eyes this morning, did you wake up to reality? Or did reality wake up inside you? It's such a simple question that most of us never ask it. We spend our entire lives looking outward, at people, at cities, at stars, at galaxies billions of light years away. Yet almost never do we stop to ask the one question that makes every other question possible. Have you ever actually seen reality? Over 2,000 years ago, a philosopher named Plato imagined a group of prisoners chained inside a cave. Since birth, they had watched shadows dancing across a stone wall, and to them, those shadows were the entire world. Not because they were foolish, because it was all they'd ever known. One prisoner finally escaped, and for the first time, he stepped into the light. He saw the fire that had cast the shadows. He saw the world beyond the cave. He realized that everything he had once called reality had only been a reflection. The story has survived for more than 2 millennia, not because it tells us something about ancient Greece, but because every generation rediscovers the cave for itself. On the other side of the world, ancient India spoke of Maya, not simply as illusion, but as the appearance of reality. A world that is experienced, yet not necessarily understood in its deepest nature. Across Australia, many Aboriginal peoples describe the dreaming, not as a dream in the ordinary sense, but as a living framework connecting land, ancestry, law, and existence. It is not separate from the world. It is another way of understanding our relationship to it. In ancient Egypt, priests spoke of hidden worlds lying beyond ordinary perception, not somewhere else, but intertwined with the one we inhabit. Different continents, different languages, different civilizations, yet they all returned to the same intuition. Perhaps what we experience is not the whole story. Modern neuroscience suggests that perception is not a passive recording of reality. The brain is constantly predicting, updating, and interpreting incoming sensory information, constructing our conscious experience from both what arrives through the senses and what it expects to find. The cave may have never been made from stone. Perhaps it has always been made from perception. And if that is true, then perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what reality is. Perhaps the greatest mystery is how reality becomes experience. Imagine trying to catch a ball. If your brain waited until the ball actually reached your eyes, you would miss it every single time. Reality moves too quickly for consciousness to simply react. So instead, your brain predicts every moment without asking permission. It builds a model of what it believes is about to happen. Not because it wants to deceive you, because prediction is one of the reasons you're still here. As you walk through your house, you don't consciously calculate where the walls are. When someone calls your name, you don't analyze every vibration in the air. When you reach for a cup, you don't solve equations describing the movement of your arm. The world feels immediate. Not because it is simple, because your brain has spent a lifetime becoming astonishingly efficient. Modern neuroscience suggests that perception is not built from the senses alone. The brain is constantly comparing two streams of information. One comes from the world, the other comes from expectation. Every sight, every sound, every touch is continuously compared against an internal prediction. Reality, as you experience it, emerges from the conversation between the two. Think about walking through your home in the dark. You already know where the hallway turns. You know roughly where the furniture sits. You reach for a light switch without needing to see it first. Your body is not reacting to the room, it is predicting it. Only when something is different does your attention suddenly awaken. Perhaps attention itself is not the normal state of consciousness. Perhaps attention is what happens when prediction fails. A loud crash, a face in a crowd you weren't expecting, a sentence that changes your life. The prediction breaks, reality rushes back in. Optical illusions reveal something extraordinary. They do not show us where perception fails. They show us how perception works. The blind spot in your vision is quietly filled in. Colors appear constant, even when the light around them changes. Motion seems smooth despite arriving in fragments. Your experience feels seamless because the brain is constantly completing what is missing. Imagine listening to an orchestra. You hear the melody, and without realizing it, your mind already anticipates the next note. When the music resolves, it feels satisfying. When it doesn't, you immediately notice. Not because the sound changed, because your expectation did. Perhaps perception works in much the same way. The world is not presented to you one moment at a time. It is composed. Moment by moment, prediction by prediction, like a symphony continuously resolving itself. But this raises a far stranger question. If the brain is constantly compressing reality into prediction, how does it decide what is worth remembering and what can be forgotten? How does an entire lifetime of experience become a single idea, a single memory, or a single symbol? Perhaps, before reality becomes conscious, it first becomes compressed. Imagine trying to remember every leaf on every tree you've ever seen. Every face, every sound, every cloud, every conversation, every heartbeat. It would be impossible. Reality contains more information than any mind could ever hold. So the brain does something extraordinary. It compresses, not by throwing reality away, but by finding patterns within it. Thousands of experiences become one idea. Thousands of faces become friend. Thousands of sounds become music. Thousands of moments become home. Language itself is compression. One word can carry an entire lifetime. The word mother, ocean, love. Behind each of them are countless memories, countless emotions, countless experiences, compressed into a single symbol. Perhaps symbols are not primitive thinking. Perhaps they are one of the most sophisticated things the mind has ever created. Dreams offer another glimpse into this strange process. Many people notice something curious. Written words often refuse to stay still. A sentence changes when you look back at it. A page rearranges itself. A clock refuses to keep the same time. Not always, but enough to make us wonder. Why? Perhaps because dreams are not trying to tell stories through language. Perhaps they are speaking through relationships, through emotion, through image, through metaphor. A wave becomes grief. A house becomes memory. A staircase becomes transformation. The dream never explains itself. It compresses itself. Maybe mythology works the same way. One flood contains generations of human memory. One serpent contains fear, renewal, wisdom, temptation, life, and death. One tree connects heaven and earth. One cave contains an entire philosophy of perception. Not because ancient people lack science, because symbols can sometimes carry what explanations cannot. Even mathematics compresses reality. A single equation can describe the motion of planets. DNA compresses the instructions for an entire organism into a microscopic strand. Music compresses emotion into vibration. And perhaps the universe itself prefers patterns over pieces. Perhaps compression is one of nature's deepest languages. If that is true, then maybe perception is not simply seeing the world. Maybe it is continuously translating an immeasurable reality into a form a human mind can live inside. Reality becomes experience. experience becomes memory, memory becomes symbol, and symbols quietly become the stories through which we understand the world. But if our minds are constantly translating reality, then perhaps one final question remains. Who is doing the translating? For thousands of years, human beings imagined a veil, a curtain, a cave, a dream, a hidden world just beyond the one we could see. We searched for it in temples, in scriptures, in the stars, believing that somewhere behind reality, another reality was waiting. But perhaps we've been looking in the wrong direction. Perhaps the veil was never hiding the world. Perhaps it has always been creating it. Think about everything we've explored. The brain predicts before you become aware. Memory compresses before you understand. Dreams speak before language appears. Symbols carry what words cannot. Perception quietly assembles a reality convincing enough that we forget it is being assembled at all. Not because reality is false, because consciousness must simplify an immeasurably rich universe into something a finite mind can live inside. Imagine standing before an impossibly detailed painting. Every brushstroke, every color, every texture, every reflection. Now imagine trying to experience every detail all at once. You couldn't. Not because the painting is incomplete, because your attention is. And maybe reality is similar. Not empty, not hidden, simply too rich. So perception becomes an act of compression, not deception, mercy. The veil is not the thing that separates you from reality. The veil is what allows reality to become an experience. Without it, there would be no colors, no music, no faces, no memories, no meaning. Only an immeasurable sea of information, with no observer to bring it into focus. Perhaps every civilization sensed this, not because they understand neuroscience, but because they understood something far older. That every human being lives between two worlds. The world that is, and the world that becomes experience. Maybe the veil has never been hiding reality. Maybe it has been translating it. And if reality must first be translated, then perhaps the greatest mystery is no longer the world itself. Perhaps the greatest mystery is the one doing the translating.